to Discograffiti, the Music Obsessives podcast that gives freaks like you and me the chance to connect with a brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and with 4 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on Moby Grape Skip Spence, along with our special guest, Moby Grape and Skip Spence biographer Cam Cobb. This is part 3 of my discussion with Cam Cobb about the amazing life of Skip Spence, and it's episode 6 of our Grape Expectations Series, which features Cam talking about Skip's mental breakdown and the recording of his classic post-lockup solo album, Or.
Skip then connects with Joanna, and he's hanging out with her. He goes to this place in Greenwich Village with her, and everything changes. He wants to leave Moby Grape.
I got to tell you, that note, it has haunted me. Just the wording of the note, the fact that it's all lowercase, and just, you getting that information to put in your book. That really is the takeaway for me in terms of when I remember your book. I feel like the first image that I think of is that note that Tim Delaire is handed.
Yeah, he told me he felt something weird about her and of that note. He felt something was off with that. And he, passed it along to Skip after that show. I think that the PA system was provided at that show. I wrote an article about that whole series of events as well for Shindig magazine. And I think Tim told me the PA was provided. They had equipment problems on and off throughout their whole career, which I think is, a lot of bands have that at different times. But they didn't have an equipment problem that particular night. But of course, Skip's life took a totally different path at that point, and he became joined at the hip with her, as Don said.
Yeah, so this is a real fork in the road. And keep in mind, Skip at this point is a husband, and Skip has 3 kids, and he's now living with a woman, a total stranger who's been described as a black magic witch in Greenwich Village. So things are not good. And the next time that people see Skip, he's been described as having shaved his beard with an axe. It looks like he's almost like shaving with his eyes closed kind of thing. Skip is gone for a couple nights and doesn't show up for at least a couple sessions and rehearsals. And then, of course, in the interview with Don, he describes how he goes to talk with him, and Skip is talking about starting a new band called The Cows, and he wants to go to England and get Eric Clapton and someone else to join the band, and wants Don to sing in the band, to not play drums anymore. And Joanna was basically puppeteering this whole thing. Don says, I really had the feeling that Skip was leaving the band, and an old man who likely was homeless is just laying there on the couch, and they're referring to him as father. And Skip is saying stuff like, we talked to our father and I'm not supposed to be playing in a band anymore. And Joanna would say stuff like, we're going to move forward and do all this new material. Isn't that right, Skippy? And Skippy would just say, yeah, I'm not supposed to be playing in a band anymore. What a memory. I mean, because I think Don is the only one who went there, right? To Joanna's place. And so I wonder if that's why what's about to happen happened, because Don was the last fresh memory he has of somebody that he saw. I mean, who knows? If it was Bob who went there, maybe it would have been Bob that he came to visit. But anyway, one thing I didn't know prior to reading your book, the famous legend, I knew about that, but there was another altercation that went down.
Right. So they're in the office of Bob Cato, who was the art director at Columbia, and Bob Mosley was there. Tim Delaire was there.
Bob is actually the one who designed the cover for Wow, which is so awesome.
Yeah, he was nominated for a Grammy for that. And so they're there in the office, and Skip wants Bob Mosley to come with him in a band.
Bob says Skip didn't have a shirt on, and he had a cross around his neck, and he was really speeded up, loaded out of his gills. He said he'd like to have me play in a new band he was forming, and I said, okay, I would. Then I said, if you want this girl to come along, I ain't gonna play. She reached over and started hitting me in the face. Then she went after Bob Cato with a pair of scissors. Thankfully, Mosley stopped her, which is which is amazing that wasn't, by itself an ender.
So this is Skip's first time interacting with people after Don visited him, and he really is ready to leave the band. And of course, we have like this physical conflict between Joanna and Bob Mosley. And so it isn't long after this that Skip has the breakdown where he goes to the Albert and he's looking for Don.
Do you know the time frame? Because it says in your book shortly after that.
Yeah, nobody knew the exact time frame. Even trying to get the sequence of events has been tricky.
It's incredible because there's so much of this stuff that you do have the dates. And then, of course, the one thing where it's like the craziest event of them all. Mm-hmm. And it really is like shrouded in this fog of mystery. So Skip goes back to the Albert to collect his things. And I'm going to quote Mosley here. I shared a room with Skip then, and he came into the room with Joanna to get his stuff. I had a gun with me, and I just sat there and waited for them to leave. All right, that concludes your free sneak peek into today's Patreon episode. If you want to hear the rest of it, just visit patreon.com/discograffiti and either purchase this podcast by itself for $4, or better yet, subscribe at the major tier and get access to Discograffiti's 4 weekly episodes. That's Friday's free episode, the Sunday Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound episode, which showcases Patreon members and the Elephant Six world, your Monday bonus episode, and your Wednesday early release ad-free super extended director's cut of that Friday's show. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 6-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not supporting Discograffiti. Become a member so you don't miss a single thing at patreon.com/discograffiti.